muted, Alex. Great show.
Oh, we're
Still
off to a
muted.
great start here. We still
Still
can't hear
muted.
Alex.
Nah.
You were just good like two minutes ago. What happened,
You
Alex?
could feel like it was going out though. Like it felt like something was powering out in the midst of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like when you start hearing that,
No, nothing, Alex.
Well,
nothing.
While
Technical
Alex talks to
difficulties,
himself,
folks.
everybody, welcome to Fast Break in the Finns Talk Sports Network. I'm your your host while Alex gets
Interim
his
host.
stuff together. Miami Clutch PE. I'm here with, as always, Justin Garfield. Justin, how are we doing?
Doing good, doing good. Let's go Heat. I know we lost, but still feeling good.
And we have a very special guest today from 560 WQAM, the GOAT of Heat Twitter, of Heat fans, Mr. Brendan Tobin. How are you, Tobin?
What's up, boys? Thanks for having me tonight. Appreciate it.
Hey, it's awesome.
Thank you
We
for
have,
being
we
here,
have
man.
a lot to talk about today, especially with this Bradley Beal stuff going on, right? I mean, Miami was named a finalist. Everybody kind of thought it was going to go that way after 4 years of flirting. I was on the show last week saying, "Oh, I mean, don't fall for this guy because this guy has been kind of teasing us for 4 years,
Kind of.
and very much
Can you hear
so
me now?
for 4 years."
Yeah.
Talk again, Ali.
Can you hear me?
There you are.
Oh, beautiful. Continue. I'll go.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so Beal's been teasing us for 4 years, very much so, and we finally think it's here. And all of a sudden, once I saw the little reports about his agent being like the father to the CEO for the Suns, I was like, oh god, this is gonna happen, isn't it? And he did it again for the final time. He stuck a knife through our hearts, and it's crazy. How do you feel about this whole situation, Tobin? Because it was a roller coaster for a while there, and then ended up in heartbreak.
Yeah, I mean, like certainly the sense it felt like, I guess it was Friday. It very much felt like, oh, the Bradley Beal thing was going to happen for the Heat. And then, yeah, that Suns report from Shams that came out, you're like, oh, really? And really the thing that I found confusing most about it was from Bradley Beal's standpoint, it just feels like a weird basketball fit, right? Like it's just like you're going there with two guys who are better scorers than you, as opposed to if the Heat were in on him and we're trying to make any kind of move on him, if you had your ways about it, it just seems like a much more seamless fit to go to Miami as opposed to Phoenix. So that's just the thing that I found the most confusing about his choice, which is what it's mostly been reported as. I know a lot of people are coming at it and saying like, well, Miami didn't offer enough. Miami didn't do this. It's like, all right, well, Phoenix really didn't give them anything. I didn't understand all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, five second round picks is a thing all of a sudden. So that was kind of weird. It was a strange thing to me. Like, no, it seemed like Bradley Beal actually wanted to go to Phoenix, weird as it may be, but it kind of makes sense if you think about his career. Like the guy's gotten to fly under the radar. This is literally only time we talk about him is when he's in trade rumors and when it was about getting out, and now he's going to be on a stage, but like, you know, he's going to be the third most important guy there. He's the third best scorer on that team. I'm not saying it can't work out, but I just found it to be a very strange basketball choice for him, just from what I figured he'd want, which is like normally you would think a supposed star, a guy who's dying for a chance to prove himself would be like, oh, I want to be the go-to scorer. I want to be that final piece for a team that's just getting over team that's looking to get over the hump. And apparently it was not. So like you said, giant flirt. He'd been doing it for 3 years and kind of glad it's over.
It's felt like he's been flirting with us ever since before Jimmy Butler put on a jersey. It's crazy the way that worked out.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like and it felt like every time his fan base was kind of turning on him, that's when he'd turn on the charm to like, oh, well, I could go other places. I could. Hey, look, it was a great play by him. He always kind of made it seem like he was like doing the loyal Damian Lillard thing without being ever nearly as good as Damian Lillard. And he got a whole lot of money for it. So I'm not knocking it. Great hustle by him. But yeah, yeah, this has kind of been his MO now for a few seasons. And by the way, as the years have gone by, he's played less and less basketball, and his team has gotten less and less good.
Yeah, and one of the things that it was incredible. If people think about no trade clause, you would have never imagined that Bradley Beal is the only NBA player currently that has a no trade clause, which is a great job by his agent and a great job to max out his deal. But Justin, before I respond, I want to get your take, obviously from the West Coast, because now he's closer to you. How do you feel about Beal to the Suns?
I don't see it as such a big upgrade, to be honest. I mean, Beal, is he really a winning player? He's been on what, 2, 3, 4 playoff teams, and he's never gotten as far as the second round. Is this really a go-to guy who's going to change your franchise, or is he just going to be a complimentary, another scorer in Phoenix? That's exactly what they don't need. They need more defense. They need more depth. But this new owner of the Suns, Matt Ishbia, he's going all in with big names, saying, hey, we've got KD in the last years of his prime. We've got Booker just entering his prime. We need to capitalize, not tomorrow, now. We don't care about 5, 6 years from now when we've got no picks, no first round, no second round, no bench right now. We need to go all in now. The Matt Ishbia we see as a guy who's clearly impatient, just trying to get the wheels rolling. And you think about it, if you're a Phoenix fan, you're going to love this because your whole franchise, you're the winningest franchise percentage-wise that's never won a championship. Fun fact that I learned.
That's crazy. That's true.
For Miami's sake, how much better would Beal make this team? If you ask me, I think you'd win 1 or 2 more games in the finals. I don't know if you would still beat the Nuggets if Beal was on that same team, because I don't know if he's that winning player.
Well, to answer that directly, you kind of feel he would be the natural scorer that you say, kind of like what we were missing in Hero in the finals. So he would slide right into that role where Jimmy can be Jimmy, Bam can do what he does constantly, and then Beal becomes a natural scorer. Because I didn't look too much into the percentages of his actual shooting percentage improved last year. He didn't play much, like you said. He's really the focal point on that team. Even with Porzingis, you can say that the best season he had was when Westbrook was his teammate, and people forget about that. 2 years ago, him and Westbrook were a decent backcourt. And Clutch, before I go to you, and I'll do a follow up with you, Tobin, because I want to ask you something about something that I heard today in the press conference, a tone. But Clutch, I wanted to ask you, man. And we talked about this because we were kind of like touching up on the new CBA, and obviously Bobby Marks explains it masterfully, and we have the cap master and Andy Ellisberg, so they understand the whole concept of the second apron. Phoenix is betting on this team right now. This is it for the next 4 years. There's really nothing you can do aside from trading a player for a player. You can't aggregate salaries for a traded player. I believe you don't even have a mid-level exception. You can't sign buyout players. You can't draft really because you traded away all your picks already. So, Clutch, do you understand the concept of why Miami was so? They were teetering the line between going into the apron. They're going to be a tax team, and Mickey for years has gotten this. Oh no, doesn't pay the tax. Miami used to be one of the most taxed teams. They're doing this tactfully, and they're going tactfully. They're going to do whatever it takes to win a championship. Are you okay with the explanation today of that second apron and why you have to approach it cautiously? Because it could get you into the deep shit.
Yeah, the sense I got out of the whole press conference and what Pat was saying is kind of like you spend in the luxury tax, you spend into the apron, but for somebody that's worth it.
Exactly.
Or for something that's worth it, that gives you that next iteration of a championship team, that how Pat mentioned. And I honestly think, like, if the reports are very conflicting, but maybe he just didn't think Beal was worth paying into that apron. Whereas as somebody, obviously we're about to talk about, Damian Lillard, he's definitely worth going into that apron for.
And it's funny because we were talking about that. There was a report, obviously we can't deny or confirm, but that it reached a certain point that the Heat had a line that they weren't going to cross. And they were asking for a certain package. And then they try to be, obviously, to take on Duncan's contract, we're going to ask you for Highsmith. We're going to ask you. They said that they stopped at a certain point. And I have a feeling it was Jovic. I have a feeling because I love Nikola. And I've told you this, Clutch. If there's one thing I want this summer, I hope we find a way to not trade Jovic. But
you had a feeling it was Jovic because you love Jovic and you didn't want that to happen. That's why you think.
I think that kid is going to be. I think that kid is going to be perfect next to Brand. But that's either near there. Tobin, you were there, and I wanted to ask you the sense. There was a quote that Pat Riley said. Obviously, said he's not going to swing for the fences because he's reckless. He's like, we've hit big before. I'm going to hit big again. I don't know if he slipped that in there because he knows something's coming, but then he quickly backtracked a little bit. So obviously, your sense, he looked calm in the aspect of, obviously, he's the Godfather. He knows how to play this down. He looks calm with happy how we're going. Obviously, he's hyping Hero. He tends to do that with his assets. He's hyping Hero up, but he also put him in the same senses as Bam and Hero being the anchors, and you have a superstar in Jimmy. What is your personal take? How did you feel that the message Pat was trying to relay today to the fans, to Heat Nation?
Very interesting press conference with how much he was careful, just because here's the thing that you got to figure out that was interesting about this press conference, right? It's very, very up. It's not typically this close up to when the action is,
Yeah.
Pat typically, like, look, when you get to the finals and you got the draft coming up right away, hey, he could have spoken last week if he wanted to, but he usually does like the whole week after, let everybody kind of decompress, do their exit interviews, all that. But this is like, once you're getting up to draft day, I think everybody was kind of wondering, like, well, when is Pat going to talk? I kind of thought maybe it was going to be Tuesday or Wednesday, but we didn't know for sure. And we didn't get word yesterday until like, I think it was like 3:00 that he'd announced it, that he was going to speak on Tuesday. And I just felt like a guy who certainly didn't want to tamper, but also didn't really want to show his cards. And I think that, people, got some buzz phrases in there that made him go crazy, where he said things like subtle moves or run it back again. But like I think was kind of covering his base for all that. I do agree that quote about, going up and swinging for the fences, but not being reckless. That to me was the most interesting thing because, yeah, it makes you seem like, yeah, of course I want to go and land, the buzzword, the orca, the whale, all that stuff. He wants to get that done. But I don't think that anybody wants to make it feel like the Heat have these grand plans, or they want to feel, or you don't want to give the impression that you're not happy with your team, because you feel like anything can be a play in negotiation. Anything can be anything. So I thought Pat's press conference was interesting. The Tyler Hero praise was very interesting because it was unsolicited. He wasn't asked about Tyler Hero. And I think the thing that was interesting about today's press conference was a lot of the questions were kind of the same. Like everybody was basically trying to badger out of it. Trying to badger out of him. Well, when will you know to make a good move? How do you know it's time to make a move? Where I think one of the things that I typically like about Pat Riley press conferences is you could ask him specifically, hey, dude, what do you think about Tyler Hero? What do you think about that guy? And he'll give you honest thoughts. And so for him to kind of just bring Tyler up out of nowhere, he certainly wanted to get across that he thinks this is a player that has high value. At one point in his press conference, he was like, and people say he can't guard. Yeah, who cares? Like, it's like, well, when have you ever heard Pat Riley not care about defense? So, like, even like Tyler's weaknesses, he was like, oh, that's not even a big deal. Like, people are just doing that with like hocus pocus and analytics. So I thought that was interesting for sure. But no, biggest takeaways seems like a confident guy. I think he does like his roster, but I think he knows what we all know, that they definitely could use a jolt in a way. I don't want to say they got lucky, but they were fortunate last year that they did run it back. It looked like a terrible plan for the entire regular season, and then they just had a magical playoff run. I don't think he thinks they could do that again.
That sounds perfect. And Justin, from the West Coast, there's something that came out. Obviously, the rumor mill and the Blazers and Damian Lillard, they're going to keep playing this. This is back and forth. Who folds first? The Blazers are going to seem like they're doing everything possible to improve the roster. Dame Lillard is going to lay back, be like, hey, it's up to you, man. I'm here for you. I'm down. Of course I want to be here, of course. So we understand this little cat and mouse game. Then comes out the report today, which obviously I don't know how true this is, that the Blazers are preparing an offer for Bam. And Justin, we've talked about this forever, and Clutch knows this. I said we're never going to trade Bam for anybody, only Giannis. That's the only person I'll trade Bam for. How do you feel regards to negotiation tactics? Because is this just a show so the Blazers could be like, look, we're trying to acquire Bam, man. We just can't do it. How do you feel? How is that sounding over there in the West, Justin?
You really think that they're going to take Bam Adebayo of Miami's hands and not give Damian Lillard in return? I call big bluff here. Big bluff.
The reason they're trying, because Dame Lillard wants to play with Bam. That's one of his closest friends.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, as a basketball perspective, let's throw this scenario out there. Clutch, you can feedback to this if you want. They offer you Simmons, the third pick, Sharp from last year. People, any other regular GM's going to entertain it, but you're asking me for Bam Adebayo. At this point, I'm like, do you even really entertain that, Clutch?
Listen, man, they can offer me the first pick, the second. We'll talk about the first.
Whoa.
They can offer me the second. I'll start with second. Okay.
Whoa.
They can okay. I'm sorry. They can offer me the second pick. They can offer me the third pick. They can offer me 23rd. They can offer me 5 first-round picks for the next 5 years, and I still don't want to trade Bam, man. I mean, he's other than being an amazing defensive player and an amazing player in general, and a hub for anything Miami does on offense as well, he's also just somebody that players like. Everybody likes Bam. Bradley Beal, he liked Bam. He just decided to be stupid and go to Kevin Durant. That's another.
Bradley Beal went from like one abusive relationship to another little bit nicer abusive relationship. Well, a better.
And Damian Lillard clearly likes Bam. He publicly likes Bam. He even publicly likes the Miami Heat in general. But Bam is just somebody that everybody likes. He's friends with Jason Tatum. He's friends with Bradley Beal. He's friends with Damian Lillard. He's friends with pretty much anybody you saw on that Olympic team from the last time around. He's friends with. Mm-hmm. Everybody likes him, and he's somebody that eventually, whether it's this year, whether it's next year, he's gonna bring a big star down to play with him for the next few years, even after the Jimmy years are over.
And one thing, there's a few names that we're going to talk about. Obviously, there's many possibilities, because one thing that Pat said that is true, the right sort of move can make a big difference. So I do agree with that part. But I'm going to bring what Cap says. This has been a topic, a little sour topic for a while. We all can agree that Dame Lillard is this year's win. Now, if that falls through, if that option is not done, Kyrie Irving, basketball fit, he's a perfect fit. Very close friends with Jimmy. Tobin, I'll give you the spot. Are you okay? And I understand. I don't know the ramifications of acquiring a player via sign and trade. I don't know if that puts you. I believe that puts you over the second apron, or there comes some restrictions. So let's think that hard caps you. Yeah, it hard caps you, right? It hard caps you at that salary point, right? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So even knowing that, obviously you have your team surrounded. How do you feel if your main get is Kyrie Irving this year?
I mean, I wouldn't dismiss it like, oh, this is awful. I know there's a lot of people that hate Kyrie Irving's guts for fine reasons. I mean, I get it. The thing that just concerns me with Kyrie, and I don't know how close him and Jimmy are, but I know that Jimmy has said, like, he's been on record in years past saying the guy that he would want to play with is Kyrie. And then I know that Kyrie has a very big brother, little brother relationship with Bam. He's known him since he was in high school, middle school. So I do think that, between your two top guys, I think they'd be okay with it. The one thing that everybody's got to realize, though, is like every place that this guy has gone since he's left Cleveland has ended up hating his guts, and the team hasn't played as good. And I don't know what you want to do with that. Maybe if you're Miami, you feel like, hey, it's not going to happen with us. Mm-hmm. But you still have to pay Kyrie Irving a huge deal, so he's not pissed off, and so he's not causing mayhem. And then does that even guarantee that? Because we've seen this guy get max deals and still kind of go off the deep end as far as, does he want to play basketball? What are his priorities now? Is he in the mood for this? Is he working hard? So that's stuff that you all kind of you're not going to have a situation where like you bring in Kyrie Irving and you're going to pixie dust heat culture him. He's mature in that he's been many years in the league. I think he kind of is who he is. Maybe anybody you could kind of keep in line for a little bit. It's not like things went poorly in Dallas from a personality standpoint.
No, just
basketball wise, it didn't work. They couldn't stop a nosebleed. So I would find my ways to talk myself into it, but I definitely don't think it should be like, I think it's honestly like a last ditch effort. Like, you know, I don't think, like, I think there's a lot of different, like, I would be more into, like, if you told me they went after Zach LaVine or somebody like that, just a little less, like, I feel like that's a better avenue almost to go than Kyrie, just because of all the baggage that it brings. Even though, yeah, he's definitely implied that he's wanted to be in Miami plenty of times. There are ties to the two best guys, but yeah, it just is what it is. Like, how many times do we have to watch the same movie from him, from team after team after team, and not think that it's going to happen to you too?
That's before I go to Justin Clutch, your thoughts?
I mean, I told you, Kyrie Irving, the player, very good, very talented, seems to be a seamless fit in something Miami would do. But you have to, like Tobin said, you have to think about what that means. Everywhere he's gone hasn't worked out. They built a super squad in Brooklyn, and that team didn't do anything. They were close, but they didn't even make an Eastern Conference Final. A team like that, when you have James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie not making the Eastern Conference Final is crazy when you think about it on paper. And
that's true. Was the KD on the line? Was Kyrie injured that year?
I think
remember
they were hobbled. I know that, but
okay.
It was just weird because they gave it a shot for like 1 year, and then Harden decided he didn't want to be there, and it kind of just like got weird at that point. Kyrie's he's just a weird guy. I mean,
he's just himself, bro. Yeah, but it's a very weird at time with other people. It's like,
I mean,
he's throwing this one.
As a Heat player,
man, Jaylen Brown's gonna get a max deal. He ain't going anywhere.
The Celtics gonna trade him, and the Celtics are gonna pay him, and he just got a turnover like 2 minutes ago.
And he still can't go left.
And he still can't go left. The thing about Kyrie, like, he's a weird guy, and if you're Pat Riley, you have to really look at yourself and be like, is the Heat culture too strong for even Kyrie Irving? And I don't know. And that's where I'm on it. If, like, exactly like Tobin said, if Kyrie Irving finds his way onto the Heat, I'll talk myself into it. Yeah, Kyrie, Bam, Jimmy.
Yeah, you take him.
I'm gonna be all over that. But for now, the player works, but the person kind of doesn't.
I get you. It's not a fit. It's not a cultural fit, you can say. Justin, for you, one name that came up, obviously a trusted source, Ethan Skolnick from 5 Reasons Sports. He did mention something of a name to keep thinking of. And I was actually talking with Bobby about this last night, I forgot it was Monday when we did our show. No, it was last night. Sorry, we did our show last night. And Draymond Green. And I told him, I'm like, that's not going to be the move. At this age, I highly doubt Golden State's going to let him walk. Obviously, he's going to test free agency with the Lakers. The reason I ask is because there's rumors, obviously, with the Lakers. He's from Clutch Sports. He's close to LeBron. So what is your take, Justin? Where do you feel Draymond Green ends up? Because obviously Mike Dunleavy was just named the GM of the Warriors. They're trying to obviously say all the right things. They're going to be continuity. But that team is facing a huge dilemma. You go over the tax massively to keep together an older team because you're not going to give them 1-year deals, like one last dance like the Bulls did. Or do you kind of pivot with your youth and you keep Curry, Kuminga, which I'm surprised how they haven't found a role for Kuminga yet. And supposedly Kuminga grew again this year. So what is your take? What do you think Draymond ends up this year?
There's been theories I've seen in the past where he goes home to Detroit, and I thought that was a really interesting fit because that's a really young team, and he could teach those guys some hard-nosed basketball, bring it back to the bad boys days. I find that fit very, very intriguing and interesting if he did want to go back home. Not saying he will, but this could be like a LeBron story, leaving Miami, going back home and winning a chip. And Detroit, by the way, is nowhere near winning a championship. But if Draymond goes there and teaches them how to play harder, then he could set the pace for them for years to come. And plus, by the way, Detroit has so much cap space, I've heard, that they could sign him to a longer-term deal. Not saying they'd want to do that and maybe stunt the growth of their guys, but maybe he is there as a mentor to come off the bench or just play a couple minutes. But if he is given starter money, then I know I'm talking in circles here. This is a whole hypothetical. His fit with, but realistically, I feel like he's going to stay in Golden State. They'll find a way to make this work, even if it means trading Clay because he seems like he's on the downhill of his career. And Steph is still playing Steph-effortlessly, is like they like to say in TNT.
Steph-effortless, that's good.
So I think they'll find ways to surround Steph with the best talent in his twilight years to see if they can make one more run. And even if that means trading Clay away, I think that is what is going to happen ultimately.
Look, and that's true. Clay can end up. I want to see where Clay ends up. That's one of those knuckleballs. Like what happens with Jordan Poole also. But I want to thank everybody also tuning in. You're watching Fast Break. I gotta say because now Bobby's gonna kill me. Like, share, and subscribe with the Fins Talk Sports Network. Tobin, I'm gonna ask you this one because I know this is close to your heart, and I think he's one of the most loving Heat players of all times. Definitely is an option down the line. Obviously, we lose our captain on the bench. He could possibly be that captain coming back for the Heat culture. Is it true the Dragons coming back home? Your thoughts on that one, Tobin? Because I know this one will make all of our hearts happy.
I think it'll probably be like one of those things. If it does happen, it'll be like probably towards the end of training camp where they make a decision like this. Look, I had him on the show a couple weeks ago. I reached out to Goran to ask him about, coming on the show and just talking NBA finals and whatnot. But he knew that I was going to ask him about that. He's obviously all for it. He would love to get his one last ride with Miami. He knows his role right now. He's like 10 to 15 minutes, does, no back-to-backs. Like, I think he knows, like, if he were to come here, yes, he was a former captain on the team too. Be that big brother to everybody. Obviously, great relationship with Jimmy Butler, especially if Kyle Lowry's not going to be here next year. If they keep Gabe Vincent and, you kind of just need a guy to spot start every now and then. Great thing. And I think the other thing too is they're not from the same country, but same region, is if you do keep Jovic around, I think that's a great olive branch as well, is to have Goran, have somebody understand what it's like coming from the Euro game over here. He's the most successful international Heat player, probably of all time. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that makes sense about bringing Goran in. I think that, always had a good relationship with Eric Spoelstra. Everybody loves him, man. I mean, like, you see him when he comes back. It's like, the amount of handshakes and hugs that guy gives out every time he comes into Miami is second to none. And I would love it. I mean, I really don't see a downside to it. I mean, everybody gets crazy with how many people got crazy with Udonis Haslem years after I can't believe what we're wasting. It's like, dude, you play like do you all see what you play in the playoffs? You play 8 guys. Like, I don't understand why people freak out about this stuff. And especially when you're the Miami Heat, who's better at unearthing people out of nowhere, better than any other organization. You would think that this fan base would give them some trust, say, hey, why don't we just do one thing right by our guy, Udonis Haslem, who obviously has a great influence on everybody. I don't know if people saw Max Strus's letter to him on Instagram.
Yes.
But it was like, that they all recite him like he's the gospel. And yeah, I think that is going to be a big piece that's missing. But I do think that Goran, a guy who does have a lot of credibility taking over that role, I think it would be an awesome story. I think it'd be wonderful. He would love it. I really honestly don't see a downside to it. I mean, it's not the first, probably second or third priority of the offseason, but yeah, I would love it to put like a bow on the offseason to get Goran back in the fold.
Man, and on that thought, I know we're already at the 30-minute mark, so I want to take a moment to, obviously, when Clutch told us it was even possible to talk to you, we hear you every day, but to actually talk to you and converse with you, it's been a pleasure, and I speak, obviously, for Justin. Justin, any final words for Tobin so that way he can go on? He's a busy man. He needs some rest because he's up early. He's got to go early in the morning. So, Clutch, any words, Justin, anything for Tobin?
Hey, Tobin, just thanks for being here, man. It's an honor to have you on the show, and we look forward to hearing more great content from you in the future and following your career from here. Appreciate
it, guys. Thank you so much. Clutch, thanks for the reaching out, dude.
No problem, man. And let's just hope that we don't get our heartstrings played with again with Damian Lillard being Western Conference Bradley Beal.
I
agree. Tell me, any free time you have, one random Wednesday at 8:30, you're free to join us, man. If you just want to vent.
All right, boys. Take care,
man. Appreciate
See
it.
you later.
Just the three of us. What's up, man? Hey, obviously, Justin, you're going to be on with us on Thursday, right?
I will.
Draft? Perfect. Okay, so I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to ask too much about the draft because obviously we're going to do a live show. But I do want to ask one follow-up question, and I'll go first with you, Justin. When Pat today said subtle moves in regards to obviously not – I loved when he said that statement because you can kind of see where he was going. Like, I'm going to hit big again. That's like ultra confidence from the Godfather. That's like telling the fans, like, relax, guys. I've done this before, and I'm going to do it again. It's like when that came out, I'm like, whoa. Is he just like stroking? It's like, whoa, I see what you're doing, Pat. But then he calmed down, and he's like, but we can't be reckless because sometimes that's addition by subtraction, which is true when you have to trade so much of your draft capital or your assets to return one player. We see how that can backfire. And if you got a good thing going, you, like you said, you don't want to wreck that whole thing. So you might make some subtle moves. What are some of the subtle moves, Justin, that you see in regards to, they're going to try to trade Lowry and Robinson. When those names are out there in these trades, they're going to try to move around and maybe trade an asset or two. So what are the subtle moves that you think they could be made, Justin?
Oh, gosh, I think the first thing is see if Kevin Love will stick around for another year, maybe on a vet's minimum deal. That'd be a great veteran presence to have, great voice in the locker room, and a guy who still has those touch passes full court. You love to see those. Another subtle move I can see is, why not give Omer some more minutes? I know you love him.
Sorry, muted again. Clutch, I know me and you have gone back and forth in regards to the Jovic and the heroes, and we've been doing this for months now. If this team is not broken up, if there's no subtraction, they're just addition to what we're doing. What are your subtle moves? And we can talk about Porzingis, Kuzma, a backup shooting guard, whatever comes to mind. What do you think some moves that can move the needle?
I mean, I haven't even gotten to the subtle moves because of this noise about Damian Lillard. But if I really think, a subtle move to Pat, maybe see what's out there for the stretch big man position, or a big guy to put next to Bam that's a power forward. I repeat, a power forward, not a center, because Bam is a center. Bam is not a power forward.
Clutch, you're gonna be. I'm telling you, when you see Bam Adebayo this year, you're gonna remember these moments, and I'm gonna call you wherever you are. I'm gonna call you like, "Hey, you seen the game? What is Bam playing right now?"
Definitely won't be power forward. Definitely won't be power forward. But okay, subtle moves. I don't know how the sign and trade restrictions and free agents work in this scenario, especially Miami, the contract they have. Obviously, like somebody like Kuzma is a good fit because he's a scorer and he fits next to Bam in the lineup that Spo likes to play, where Bam is the center. Again, he's a center, and that would be something. Maybe I don't know how willing the Kings would be over giving up Harrison Barnes. He seems to be a solid fit. I always say that there was a report about Marcus Morris not being happy with his role in LA. That's a subtle move. He fits into what Miami tries to do, at least at that spot. Stuff like that. I hope we don't get to the subtle moves, though. I really don't. I hope we're talking, instead of these guys that I'm talking about, I hope we're talking Lillard. I hope we're talking Levine. I hope we're talking something like that.
And you know what's funny for me? The one subtle move, and thank you, Brett, for listening. We're going to answer your question now. We see it there. I'll bring it up on screen in a second. To me, one of those subtle moves that I'm intrigued by is I do want to kick the tires a little bit on Porzingis because I want to see how he would fit next to Bam. And then obviously you got Jeremy Grant. You got a few others here and there that might move the needle for you and gives you some athleticism, some stretching the floor, some scoring. But obviously, you're gonna go down the tiers first. Obviously, you're gonna go with Dame, and then you're gonna look into like we talked to Tobin about the Kyrie Irving situation, which I think is very plausible. But any sign and trade, I know we can trade players in a sign and trade deal that we sign and we trade them in order to acquire another player. But if we do acquire a player that has signed and traded with another team, that has signed with the other team and traded him to us, we're hard capped at that number that year. So I know that's one of the restrictions that you confirmed for me, which was one of the things I was forgetting. So it all comes down to you don't want to really tie yourself down and remove yourself the possibility of being flexible with whatever you can add, because you don't know who's going to get bought out. One of the subtle moves that we should keep an eye on, maybe Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook. I feel Russell Westbrook for this team could do wonders in regards to the fact that if Kyle's not there, even if Gabe is there, I do believe in Boucher. I believe in Kane. I believe Jovic. I believe those people will be part of the rotation. But if you do go for the whale and you trade for Dame, you're depleting yourself of a few of your depth, because they're going to ask possibly for Highsmith. They're going to ask even for Caleb Martin. And we mentioned about this. Caleb Martin is one of the best assets that we have. So do you trade him for the right player? Everything's in play, and we get that. And on that note with Dame, Brett asked us, what do we think the chances Dame will actually tell Portland to trade him if they don't trade the third pick? Any chance he just stays quiet? Clutch, I'm going to let you go first on that.
He's been very loud, very, very loud since the season ended. He's been very loud to Chris Haynes, who he talks to a lot, that he has no interest in the youth movement in Portland. And picking at number 3 indicates a youth movement in Portland. He said he has no interest in playing with a draft pick and waiting for and growing for years down the line. He said he wants veterans on the team. He wants veterans that will help him win a championship now. And if you're Damian Lillard, you have to be realistic. You have the Nuggets, who are a juggernaut, just because of Jokic.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the Suns, who formed their new big 3. You don't know what the Lakers are going to be. They definitely have talent.
Yeah, and cap space now, so they're going to make moves.
What move? What serious move? And let's not talk Bam Adebayo, because that's not happening, obviously. What move is going to put you in the top 4 in the Western Conference? If you're Damian Lillard, you got to think about it. What move is going to put your team in the top 4 of the Western Conference to entice you to stay? Because if they make the number 3 pick, they're not going to be top 4 in the Western Conference. They're not going to be top 5. So you have to think, Pascal Siakam maybe,
OG maybe.
But it seems like the Raptors are very hard-headed, and they think they're just like Miami. The way I saw.
Yeah. I was seeing those reports, and it's funny because I was going to bring it up to you. They have to pick a route. Because Fred VanVleet, and Bobby even asked me actually yesterday about Fred VanVleet, and I'm like, I don't give him $30 million. There's no way to me that I would consider him. There's a team that will give him that money. Maybe even a Detroit
global team like Charlotte or Detroit or someone like that.
Plus, I just really don't want to do the undersized point guard from Toronto thing again.
No. That's and look, and I forgot to ask Tobin actually, because I was going to bring up the Dragic, because obviously when we traded for Kyle, we signed and traded for him. We understood what that meant, and he did bring a different dynamic, or so we thought. But Goran was still very productive at the age that we had him, and obviously his role has lessened a little bit. But I think he would have done great with us. We will never know. Even with Precious, we will never know those things. That's part of the business. But what I'm excited about this draft is that once we get the pick at number 2, that's when it really starts. Because obviously, we already know Wembanyama going 1. The Spurs haven't. Now, I would love to see a fly on the wall in the Spurs GM's office when he gets those calls. Because the offers that he must have gotten for Wembanyama must have been out of this world. The names that will possibly come out of those, and I'll be intrigued. Like, don't get me wrong, as the coaching mindset and like a GM, when I heard about like Portland's gonna make a move for Bam, I was intrigued. I'm like, what are they gonna offer me? Because obviously, if you're gonna rebuild, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'll think about it, but I would just do it for shits and giggles.
Let
like
me
if I
ask
was
you this
Pat,
as a hypothetical, Alex.
yeah. For Bam, what would I ask
Oh,
for?
No. I mean, in terms of Wembanyama,
Yes.
the Thunder, with all the draft picks they have, how many do you think they called up?
Oh
Antonio and
my
offered?
God, bro! They offered SGA. They offered every pick. You know who I wanted to ask? The Nets. I wonder if the Nets called and literally offered the 11 first-round picks that they have, and Cam Johnson, and bro. That is a generational talent. That's someone that you don't trade for no one. Like
Yeah,
Denver
nobody.
could call. Denver could call right now, San Antonio, and offer them Joker, and they'll probably say no.
And
I mean,
they'll say
they
no, but maybe not for the reasons we think, because San Antonio's not equipped right now to have a roster with Jokic because they have
no at all,
nothing else.
at all. Which is another thing. Look, we were talking about it yesterday, and this is part of the reason that I understand what Pat said, and he's going for it. We all know he's going to go for it at the right cost, no matter what. But look at Denver. Look at the past teams that have won championships. Milwaukee. Those are teams that built, and it took them 2 to 3, 4 years to get over the hump. They kept losing. They kept improving. They kept adding. So they never removed really anybody from the roster. They just kept upgrading. So that is why I felt when he talked about Bam, Butler, and Hero, that there's a possibility that Hero's not moved at all. Again, like there's a reason Hero has survived all these trade rumors for the past 3 years. I'm not saying it's going to be again the same scenario, but there is a possibility that one subtle move, if we hit on it, and you remove Kyle Lowry from the equation, and you add a Jamal Cain or obviously Jovic in the second unit, or you sign someone that will give you find another gem, because obviously it's not about an undrafted player. Highsmith has a higher role if he's not moved. Caleb Martin takes another step. There's a lot of things that you can do that this team can continue to grow with its continuity, but you add pieces to it. You improve it. You remove one aspect and you improve another aspect of it. So look at Harrison. Go Knox. He may even misspells Knicks. Love you, buddy. That's
he's a Knicks fan?
No, man, of course not. He's just a hater. That's what he is. I love you, bro. But look, draft is coming up in 2 days. We're all excited. All this draft and free agency, that's the only thing I told Bobby yesterday as part of our show. I wish the NBA would do it like the NFL, where you have the free agency first and then you have the draft, because you kind of have an idea. No matter what, if we don't do any trades, I know I'm a big believer of talent. So you pick the best available player, no matter what. But is there any players, without obviously spoiling anything, is there any players that you guys are looking at the Heat at 18 that you will be like, that's my guy? I'll go with first with you, Justin.
I haven't paid too much attention, to be honest, at that point of the draft. But anybody who's picked there, I trust, will be molded into the Heat identity and be a role player at least.
Perfect.
Now, again, I hope we don't end up in a Shabazz Napier situation. Like you said,
No.
with the NFL having free agency first.
Yes.
LeBron screwed the Heat when he said, I love Shabazz Napier. They made sure to get him on draft night via trade.
Yep.
And then LeBron left in town. So I do agree with you there, Alex.
From that point, when that happened, Justin, for me, I always said, I'm like, if I were running a team, I am never going to just pick a player because of the fit only. Because Shabazz could have been a productive player for what they had in mind, because they needed a cheap point guard. They were going to run it back. They were going to add. Paul Gasol was coming. That was another one that fell through that year. So you just brought me some PTSD for that years. So I'm not going to go there. Clutch, any players, man, that you would target at 18?
God, honestly, I hope we don't make the pick at 18. But
well, I think we have to. No matter what, we have to make the pick. And we just obviously, it's based on the trade already.
Yeah,
but we do have to make the pick.
I'll rephrase. I hope we don't make the pick for us. And
perfect, man.
I do like consider the idea when we were talking about subtle moves about maybe moving back in the draft and gaining a little bit more assets for a pursuit for Damian Lillard or whatever. I do like that idea, but at that spot, I've mentioned point guard a lot when we've talked about it. We talked about Hood Schifino.
Mhm.
We've talked about Nick Smith Jr. Non-point guards, I'm getting sold on two, which is Jet Howard
Yeah, John
and
Howard's son.
and which kind of like fits the whole Heat thing.
Yeah, he
They
does.
like
He really does.
and that kid who I keep forgetting his name, but he's from Marquette.
Oh, yeah, the
Uh,
one with the hyphenated first name.
yes. I
Yes.
think he's also a Heat fit because honestly, anybody that comes from Marquette into the Heat system, they somehow end up
Oh,
doing it.
for sure. For
Go
one
Dwayne
name to
Wade,
keep.
go
One
what's
name to keep.
Jimmy
One
Butler.
name to keep, bro. One name to keep in mind. And for some reason, I keep coming back to him. Keontae George. Have you seen that kid?
No
Sounds
idea. I have
familiar.
to look up his film now.
Google him. Keontae George. I forgot. Oh my God, what does he play for? I forgot who he plays for. But I've seen I've seen him play,
What is he?
and he's a shooting guard.
Okay.
He's a shooting guard. But to me, he might fall. But for some reason, I keep thinking back to his name. So I'm just intrigued by it because honestly, I think we could go either way. We can buy a second round pick, which is cool. Now the second round picks have a rookie scale contract. Before, you would have to use your cap to sign a second round pick. That's why their contracts were not guaranteed. Now
he
you
had
have
worked out, by the way, for Miami fans. They worked out Isaiah Wong.
Yes.
Oh, all right. Okay, you'd love to hear that.
Hey, you know he's going to be a UFA when he's going to sign as an unrestricted free agent. That's the thing. When draft night ends, then you start getting all the tweets of everybody that he has signed.
That's when the real draft starts for Miami.
Oh, for sure.
Mhm.
Like the scouting department. That's why to me there was a site that was so funny. Did you see the stat? Obviously, I know lottery teams work out a lot of players. But did you see the comparisons when they're like, I forgot what team worked out 90 players, the other team worked out 80-something players, and then you see Miami 13. It's like, because we already know. Like
They're very
gonna get
selective
you
about
later.
who they work out.
Exactly, man. Because you kind of have a target of who can fall. And that's another one mistake. When Winslow fell to them, they never worked him out because they didn't think he was going to fall to them. And they never worked him out. So you kind of see now, it's funny, you live and you learn. But I'm intrigued, honestly, in this draft, after the second pick, if it's not Scoot, if it's Brandon Miller, if Scoot is picked by Charlotte and Williams is not moved, that's going to start getting tricky in 3 and 4. I want to see what happens 3 and 4 because then that dictates the rest of the draft. And you'll probably see the trades coming in and this and that. That's why I love. There's nothing like NBA draft season. I know
we haven't had a trade involving picks in the draft yet, have we?
Who? Miami?
No.
The NBA.
No. This year, no. Not yet.
But Alex,
interesting.
I'm very curious.
Tomorrow we might see a few.
Sorry to interrupt. Alex, you're saying some very good point here. You should not draft for fit. You should just draft the best player. In that case, let me ask you. You're the Charlotte GM. Who are you picking? You've got a point guard. You don't have a Brandon Miller on your roster. But what do you do?
If I'm Charlotte, if I'm not acquiring Zion Williamson, I'll try to acquire Zion because obviously he's a name. He's closer to the area. He doesn't want to be in New Orleans, so I'll try to maneuver that. That's another thing. He's playing with something else. He's not playing basketball. He's playing with a lot of things. But if I'm Charlotte, I go with Scoot Henderson. There's no way I don't draft Scoot. I don't care if I got LaMelo. I will go with Scoot because he's just, to me, if Wembanyama wasn't in this draft, Scoot is the number 1 overall pick across the board. So I will go for him. And I would be surprised. I want to see if Charlotte, this is a franchise-altering move. And Jordan is selling his stakes. So he's going to still be, I believe, controlling. I don't think he's going to be controlling partner, but he's still going to have a role in the organization. So he's presiding over this draft. He's making the final call with Kupchak. I don't know, man. I
still don't trust his judgment.
At all. But if I'm the GM, I go with Scoot, and I build around Scoot and LaMelo.
Their GM should ask Michael Jordan who he would pick, and then he should do the opposite.
The opposite, yeah. Because remember, Charlotte's intriguing with Bridges, the other brother. He sat out the whole year. That's a guy that's been smart about it. I'm not saying what he did. I'm not condoning what he did. But what I'm saying is he handled himself. He stayed away from the limelight. He didn't say anything. He sat out the whole year. He wasn't even suspended. He just wasn't signed. I do believe Charlotte still has his rights, if I'm not mistaken. So that's someone that could come back and also help out Charlotte. And you can tell the year before, he had a great year with Charlotte. He was averaging a double-double almost. So, but me, to answer your question, I would go with Scoot Henderson. over Brandon
Won't end
Miller.
up like the Kobe situation where they got fleeced.
Hey, man. And in Dame's perspective, I know Dame is tired, but if I was Dame Lillard, I would be intrigued by Brandon Miller. But I understand what he's saying. He's 32 years old. In order for you to be competitive is another 2 years at least. But you got Sharp, you got Simmons. Even if they trade Dame, the Blazers are going to be competitive. They can sneak into the 8th. If they trade Dame, they can still be a play-in team because they're still a talented squad. So I don't know, man. I'm just intrigued because in one night you got almost possibly maybe 15 to 20 franchises that their directions could change. So it's a cool day.
I don't know about getting into the play-in for Blazers. The thing about the West, it is stacked. You saw OKC growing and getting in. You still got the Nuggets, the reigning champs. You've got the Lakers are still there. The Clippers are still going to be competitive and get in. The Warriors, we'll see what they look like, but I don't see Steph missing the playoffs at this point in his career.
He's not going to miss. He's not going to miss. But you can argue, for example,
the Kings are upstarts too.
Minnesota has to trade Karl Anthony Towns. That's not going to work another year. They have to move Cat. But like you said, there's a youth movement. Orlando's going to surprise teams this year in the East. Orlando's going to be the OKC of the West. OKC is going to surprise people this year, and they're going to be in the playoffs. Orlando's going to be in the playoffs. So I'm telling you, this is a fun basketball year.
This is going to be a very, very interesting draft. I know it's very top heavy, but just the moves that could be made, the dominoes that could fall, that's what intrigues me the most.
The draft is very interesting because there could be 47 different trades and everybody's going crazy, or nothing happens at all. I don't think there's an in-between.
Yeah, and for the most part, it's always active. So, but there is a record setting of players that could move. It's funny, James Harden, quiet on that front. Kyrie Irving has been quiet. We haven't heard shit about Kyrie in regards to Dallas. So the moment the draft ends, then it starts getting spicy. And July 1st comes around, and then everything just starts flying. So, hey, I'm just looking forward to Thursday. We're going to have a chill night. We're going to react live to everything. Justin, my man, I'm so happy you can make it with us. Clutch, I'll see you Thursday as well. Any final word, guys?
The UCF fan in me is very excited because we're about to have our first ever lottery draft pick this Thursday night in Taylor Hendricks. Let's go.
Woo! There we go. Clutch, I'll leave it always to you, my man. Any final words?
No, man. God, please just don't make the pick. Don't pick for yourself.
No matter what.
Just make me feel something.
Just make me feel. Announce Dame. Lead us, Pat. All right, guys. On to Thursday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Watch all our shows. We'll keep on going. We have new logos here and there. We're keeping it fresh. Thank you for tuning in. See you Thursday at 8 o'clock, right? Live. Take care, Miami. Go Heat.